it's evidence that I'm in an overreaction. Am I forming alliances, calling everybody I know, trying to get them on my side and make that person wrong and me right? That's another telltale sign of an overreaction. There's
Right.
reactions, there's overreactions. If I'm in an overreaction, I keep saying the whole thing over and over again. I'm mulling on it constantly. That's not a reaction, that's an overreaction. So if I'm in an overreaction, it's actually all about me. That event was the catalyst, it catalyzed something inside of me. I am now in a response that goes beyond that event.
Right.
And if it's going beyond
So
that event, I am flooded with all of this judgment. I'm probably in my 3-year-old.
what causes an emotional trigger? When I think about this, I'm thinking my child came home because they got suspended from school, or they called me on the phone and said, "Hey, at 3 o'clock in the morning, they called and said, 'Hey, mom, dad, can you come get me from jail?'" Or my child came to me and said, "I'm gay," right? And there are events that happen, and there are things that are pronounced. It's not necessarily an event, but maybe our child comes to us and says something that just takes us totally out of left field, and we're like, "What?"
Yeah,
So how to d so go a little bit more into
sure.
emotional triggers.
So if, any one of those circumstances, if I am triggered, then I'm not able to do something practical because I'm already drowning myself. And what I think all of us want to do is, regardless of what the news is, difficult to hear news where I'm scared for my child's safety, whatever it may be, is I
Right.
want to be centered enough that I'm capable to do something practical to meet what has just come into my field. And if I'm triggered, then not only am I not able to take a practical step, I myself am drowning. So generally, some of the things that we can be aware of is, Marshall Rosenberg talked about 2 types of consciousness. One is the giraffe and one is the jackal. And it's a good thing to plug in here, because if we're in our jackal consciousness, that's the one that is judgmental. That's the one that's life alienating. That's the one that's critical. And it doesn't give me any support if I allow myself to go into that consciousness. The giraffe consciousness can hear anything through these giant giraffe ears and process it through. The reason he used the giraffe is that it has a 75-pound heart. So it's the largest hearted mammal,
Wow.
and hears
Wow.
it through the heart, which doesn't change the news, but it changes my response to the news. I can give you an example that he used. He was a teacher and an administrator, and so he was always involved in education with kids. And there was a couple of boys outside who were in a fist fight, and he ran out of his office to break them up, and one of the kids hit him in the nose. And he was furious, and he dragged that kid in and he said, "You are suspended. Never can happen again. La, 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 la." 3 days later, kid suspension is over. He comes back, and honest to God, he said the exact same thing happened. And he goes into the hallway, same kid gets hit in the nose again. And he said the weirdest thing happened. Rather than the fury that I'd had the first time, I was filled with compassion. What in the world could account for the difference in his response?
It's a good question.
Any ideas?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is that when you step between 2 kids that are in the middle of a fist fight, you're bound to get hit, right? And those kids are not necessarily trying to hit you. They're not angry with you. They're angry at each other. And so he's kind of inserted himself into a violent altercation, right?
Well, I
That
think
that
that's true for sure.